guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is the 28th of July, 2019. Is it a what?
Is it already?
It is already. It's almost August. It's a Sunday. Every Sunday, we bring you the latest of European and UK, pretty much just world news. And today, one of the biggest topics that we are going to talk about is the new Prime Minister. It is not Theresa May. It kind of feels weird, right? That it's not Theresa May anymore. Like, she's done, she's washed up, she's a has-been, and now we've got Boris Johnson, and you'll note with the picture that I chose, he comes out of, and he's in front of number 10, and he gives the thumbs up. They're equating Boris Johnson to the UK's President Trump. I have to disagree there.
He's not him.
He's just kind of, the reason why they're doing that is because Boris Johnson has no filter either. And that's the only reason why they, are similar in that. Boris Johnson just says whatever he wants to say, and so does President Trump. But that outside of that, they are very different.
They're very different.
And they both have blonde, wacky hair.
Yeah, they do kind of look a little similar, too.
I saw a cartoon of Trump handing him a comb.
Yeah,
kind of
funny.
when greatness is thrust upon you, or you have it, we've seen this here with our representatives, like Mitch McConnell and some of those guys, where they, when given license to do the rebellious thing against...
Feels good.
It does feel good.
And you start,
and I think that that's really been an empowering thing for Trump.
Yeah.
And from the time he decided to campaign to become president up through now, is he's found this like high in going against the establishment. And I think that it's not too early to say that, at least as of right now, Boris is getting a sense of that. And so I think that the things that he's saying and that sound really good, I think as of right now, I don't think he's quite hit the wall that he will hit. President Trump hit it. And we'll see what happens when he hits the wall of the powers that be coming against these grandiose ideas that he wants to have, getting back, putting Britain, independent again, and fighting crime, and maybe standing up against the religion that shall not be named.
Well, he's already backed down on some things. He wanted to reduce the number of immigrants from the hundreds of thousands to the tens of thousands, and he had to scrap that plan already.
Wow.
So, and he also wants to, we covering all the good and the bad. He also wants to give amnesty to everybody, the legal immigrants who are already there, and that could be devastating.
Right.
And a lot of people are very much against that.
So I think that we need to, like Worth a Look is saying, and like we're saying here, remain cautious with Boris, and cheer the things that he's doing that are correct, and poo-poo and boo the things that are not.
Yeah, Nigel Farage says, we'll fight every seat if Boris goes for May's treaty minus the backstop. Brexit party leader from Westminster here, Nigel Farage has revealed that his outfit will stand in every seat across the country if Boris Johnson clings on to Theresa May's deal with only the backstop removed. Farage has said that he is ever more certain of an election this year and has set down a marker. He told the Telegraph, if he, Boris Johnson, puts through that treaty minus the backstop, then put it to a general election, we'll fight him in every single seat. Farage has expressed his doubt the new Prime Minister will take the UK out of the EU at the end of October, pointing out last week that Theresa May promised us 108 times that she would deliver. Can we trust him to deliver? Johnson, meanwhile, has dismissed the idea of a general election, though that is still to be expected. He told reporters yesterday the British people voted in 2015, 2016, and 2017. What they want us to do is deliver their mandate and come out of the EU on October 31st. They don't want another electoral event. They don't want a referendum. They don't want a general election. They want us to deliver, and the clock is ticking. So we shall see where that ends up. There's another one. Hold my jacket. Farage ready for punch up if Johnson treats Brexit party as an enemy. Nigel Farage has said that he is ready for a punch up with the Prime Minister if Boris Johnson treats the Brexit party as an enemy. Warning he will need a political alliance in the event of a general election. Speaking to Sky News Australia, Farage said that while he is confident that Brexit will happen, he is skeptical that it will happen. Let me see if I can get you
October 31st.
On October 31st. Let's see if we can get
which, I mean,
the video.
That's not that far away. I mean, we're approaching August, September, October.
Yeah.
So you have 3 months to make this happen. And
very nice to talk to you again. Are you still
not
confident
quite sure it'll happen
after
either.
this week that Brexit will happen by October 31?
Oh, I'm confident Brexit will happen, yes. By October the 31st, I'm very sceptical indeed. I mean, look, Boris Johnson is going to win this contest. Of that, I think there's very little doubt. He said we will leave on the 31st of October. In fact, he said all the same things Theresa May said about March the 29th. 108 times she told us we're leaving on March the 29th, and of course we didn't.
Right.
Now, I think there is more sincerity about Brexit with Boris than there was with May, but I don't see, given the current makeup of Parliament, how he's going to be able to deliver it.
We've had this extraordinary day Thursday where the British Parliament has actually voted down the idea of a new leader proroguing Parliament, shutting Parliament, by 41 votes. Were you surprised at that number?
No. No, I mean, look, it's very simple. The situation in this country is, the country is voted leave, the country is still leave, arguably the country is more leave than it was 3 years ago, with Parliament just simply doesn't accept the result. That's the logjam, that's the problem that we have here. So Boris faces the most enormous challenge. You know, either he says, well, I'll just break my promise and we'll kick the can down the road for a further 6 months, but if he does that, you know, he risks electoral oblivion for the Conservative Party, or what he does is he goes for a big, bold general election. But here's the problem. Since you and I last spoke, something different has happened in British politics. A new party has come along. It's called the Brexit Party. It won the European elections heavily. It's still polling very high out there in the country. And the only way Boris could win that election is if he must come to some kind of accommodation with me and with the Brexit Party.
So this is very interesting, because if it does come to a general election, Boris Johnson has ruled out a deal with you on seats. Are you disappointed in that?
Look, you know, I've said all the way through this, if Boris wants to have a fight with me, then someone hold my jacket. That's fine. You know, I'll have a punch-up with him any day you like. But if he does that, if he chooses to see me as a political enemy, he can't win. So it's up to him.
You said you'd be back in the European...
He is Brexit man. You can't go after Brexit man. It's
Well,
like,
and I
you
think
can't
that-
go
here's
after
the
the
deal,
Jolly
though.
Green Giant. You can't go after the Brawny Man. You can't go after Nigel Farage. He is the Brexit dude. You can't do it. The people who voted Brexit
But I don't
voted
think that Boris is going to.
He's not, yeah, I know.
I don't think he will. I think he understands that the only reason he is prime minister now is because people want Brexit and Theresa May couldn't deliver it. So if he doesn't deliver Brexit and he doesn't deliver it in a timely manner, his head is on the chopping block as well. And Nigel would step forward. So all of this gaming and fronting and stuff that we're seeing from Nigel and from different people, I really don't think that Boris, and this is just my opinion, and it's not a fact, obviously, I don't think Boris is going to, like I said at the start of the show, is going to have trouble getting a no-deal Brexit through Parliament. We're seeing the lightened mood in Parliament. I think that Nigel is just rightfully cautious, like Worth a Look is saying, because he's seen too many people fold under the pressure. So I think that Boris will do it, not because he's a good guy, not because he's an honest guy. Somebody said that in the chat, that he's an honest guy. I don't know. I don't think that he's an honest guy. I think he's more honest than some, but I don't think that's why he'll do it. I think he'll do it because he understands that if he does not, he will have had one of the shortest lived prime ministerial careers ever.
He will. Tony Andrew here says Nigel Farage can play kingmaker.
What we haven't got in this House of Commons is a majority of MPs who actually want to leave the European Union. We're completely out of step with the public opinion, and it will be a fascinating election. But I think if we could come to an accommodation where we weren't in direct competition in all the seats with the Brexit Party, perhaps some sort of coupon arrangement. And I don't think Nigel Farage is a detail person. He's not going to, Brexit Party is not going to have a manifesto. He will say they're all lies anyway, so why should I bother? And he maybe have a point there. But I mean, I don't think he wants to be involved in post-Brexit Britain. He wants to get the fame of getting us out.
It would be good, and he deserves a place in the Lords at the very least for that.
I don't doubt it. I mean, I think he would certainly knowing Nigel as I do, and having seen him in action, I'd really rather have him inside peeing out than outside peeing in.
Yeah, great.
And I think any sensible politician would want to do that. And if we don't have bring the right of centre together, we are facing Jeremy Corbyn, probably in a minority government. He'll do a deal with the SNP or the Liberal Democrats, and neither of those options will mean no Brexit. Could mean the breakup of the union itself, and it doesn't bear thinking about. So it's a real four-pointer. And at the moment where we are, I mean, Nigel Farage can play the kingmaker.
So I don't get the reference there.
Okay, you'd have him inside peeing out, then outside peeing in.
No, the kingmaker.
Oh, Nigel Farage plays kingmaker and who gets to be where and what.
Okay.
This is Brexit. He's the kingmaker.
Okay.
He's the people making people.
Britt Baza says, Michelle, the UK Parliament is in recess until, in a week until September the 4th, so it's literally only 8 weeks in which Westminster can stop Brexit. There's not enough time for Parliament to stop it. For those of you that don't understand, with Article 50, Parliament did vote to leave without a deal if there was no deal. And it was supposed to be at the end of March, and that didn't happen. And so when Britt Baza says that they would have to stop Brexit, it's not a matter of Brexit being put forward and happening. It's already been voted on. All right. It's already in play. It already should have been. So they would have 8 weeks to try and stop it. So well said there.
So Nigel Farage revealed after meeting with President Trump that President Trump says they should work together. Nigel Farage reveals Donald Trump's personal message for Britain.
With the president earlier on this morning, and of course, as ever, we talked about Brexit and we talked about Boris Johnson. And I asked the president, do you have a message for the British people on this day? Sure, he said. I think Boris will make a great Prime Minister. He brings much needed energy to the job. The last 3 years have been pathetic. I want him to work with you, Nigel, to get the Brexit deal done. So that was the message that I was to convey to you. To my surprise, a few moments later, on the stage, he said this.
Nigel's someplace in this audience. Where's Nigel? Where is he? Nigel Farage. He's here someplace. I saw him. I said, what is he doing here? He's a little older than most of you. Where is he? Nigel. I'll tell you what, he got 32% of the vote from nowhere over in UK. Nigel, thank you, Nigel. I said, what's Nigel doing here? He's a little older than you folks.
A lot older.
But he did a great job, and I know he's going to work well with Boris. They're going to do some tremendous things.
So, to my total shame and embarrassment, I'd listened to the first 15 minutes or so of the president's speech, and I thought, well, big security cordon, traffic, I've got to get across town. I want to deliver this message to LBC listeners and viewers from the president, and so I kind of wasn't there when he called my name out, so I've got some apologies to give. But you can hear the message that's coming from the president. He thinks that Boris and the Brexit Party need to work together. That's his view. It's something that Boris says he doesn't want to do. And from my perspective, I find it rather difficult at the moment to trust much that is being said by the Conservative Party.
So it'll be interesting, when Trump was interviewed, he said that he's friends with Boris. Yeah. I think we can use that term loosely.
Loosely because Boris has said some mean things about Trump.
But at the same time, if Boris is going to want to have good relations with the U.S., I think that he might want to listen to Trump's advice for Boris and Nigel to work together. So we can just be hopeful that that happens, but also cautious and ready for if it does not.
So Boris did say, and we will do a new deal, a better deal that will maximize the opportunities of Brexit based on free trade and mutual support. I have every confidence that in 99 days we will have cracked it. And he says we will leave if no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, and then Farage calls for election pact with Johnson to smash Labour and deliver Brexit. So we know about this. All right. So I think we're gonna move on to the rest of the world. We spent an hour here. I think on Boris and Brexit here. The Rebel visited Tommy Robinson. So let's get an update here.
It's 7:18 p.m. I am leaving Toronto, headed to Pearson International Airport. I will get on the plane that leaves at about 8:40 p.m. It's an overnight flight, lands in Heathrow at 8:30 in the morning. From there, I will make my way to Belmarsh Prison, which is on the east side of London. My appointment to see Tommy is at 2 p.m. I expect to spend about an hour with Tommy, then leave there around 3, make my way back to Heathrow, get back to Canada tomorrow at about 8 p.m. So from leaving to returning, it's less than 24 hours. I'll just show you clips of that crazy journey in this video.
So Ezra went to go see Tommy Robinson.
And the good news is that Tommy's actually doing okay, as of right now.
Yeah.
In jail. He's getting better food. He's getting good treatment.
Was nowhere like what happened before when he literally lost 40 pounds and was
right. And was being tortured and tormented by the religion that shall not be named members that were in jail, and he had been thrown to the dogs.
Yeah,
essentially.
Exactly. They wanted to kill him.
And that's not happening. Ezra has reported. So that's really, really good news.
It's Ezra Levant for the Rebel.media. I just stepped out of a 1-hour prison visit with Tommy Robinson here at HMP Belmarsh. I'll have a longer report at prisonreports.com. I'll have several videos there, in fact, but let me give you a quick update on Twitter. First of all, Tommy is physically in good health. Unlike his stay at HMP Onley, he is not being starved. He is not being subjected to threats of violence and assault from Muslim prison gangs. The downside of that is he's being kept in extreme isolation. He has literally not seen another prisoner in his entire time here. Now, that's a good thing when it comes to his safety. Of course, it means that there's the risk of the psychological damage of being essentially in solitary confinement for the 9-month sentence. And this is on top of the solitary confinement that he already served. However, that means he's not under immediate threat. And of course, he was very glad to receive visitors from myself, and actually 2 other friends of Tommy's were with him today. He's had 1 visit from Tommy's wife and mom, and that's not enough visiting time for a guy in isolation. In 12 days, we were only his 2nd group of visitors. Tommy says he's only received 1 batch of emails as well, that the police are going through them all and have been very slow at sending them over. I myself have written him 2 emails, and he has not received those yet.
Wow.
The mainstream media, as you can imagine, is packed full of lies about him. The fake news that Tommy was assaulted in a shower by another prisoner doesn't even make any sense when you realize that he literally has not seen another prisoner in his time here. He has a suite of cells to himself, including showers, exercise room, and things of that sort. He says, interestingly, he can holler up to one of 2 other prisoners in the same isolation unit, one of whom is Julian Assange. And he says they've had an interesting conversation. I'll give you more details about the many things that Tommy told me, but my immediate report is that Tommy is in satisfactory health, both physically and psychologically. There are things that concern me, but they are not acute. I will return because I have the feeling that things will go sideways if the prison governor thinks that people are stopping to watch. But for now, the state of Tommy's imprisonment in HMP Belmarsh is satisfactory. To see more about Tommy's state of affairs and to chip into the crowdfunding of my cost for the travel, please visit prisonreports.com.
Well done, Ezra. Well done indeed.
My alarm's going off.
Okay.
So he did confirm there then that he is having conversations with Julian Assange. Yelling. Why they would put them together like that, I don't know, but I'm very excited about this. And I'm hoping that some left-wingers might come over to our cause, because obviously Tommy is on Julian's side. And I think that that's really interesting, because when it comes to the left and the right, the left are like, I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with you. And the right are like, I'll deal with anybody. Right. And Tommy realizes that what Julian Assange is in prison for is wrong. And so Tommy's on Julian's side. And I think that that's really important to note there. Let's see. So I want to move on to some other news. The EU is dragging Hungary into Eurocourt over anti-illegal migration Stop Soros laws. the European Commission has begun a process that will see the Hungarian government taken to the Court of Justice of the European Union over its tough laws against illegal immigration. The Stop Soros law, a reference to pro-migration billionaire plutocrat George Soros, was put forth last year and is aimed at punishing NGOs and other non-government actors who engage in facilitating illegal immigration. The European Commission, an unelected body, blah, 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 is putting Viktor Orban's government there on the line. They've already like censured them in many ways. And this is what the Hungarian people want. So we'll see where this ends up.
Well, I think this is what happens, the dangers of being able to be taken to court before a united world group. Yeah. Okay. I mean, what can happen to Hungary? I mean, I think that the worst, they can impose fines. They could kick them out of the European Union.
They're not going to do that. That's too much control.
But at the same time, what's scary is that they are trying to put together a European Union army. Yeah. And in that case, they could literally charge Hungary. So they could send troops in.
Viktor Orban was at a cultural festival in Romania. The Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said the EU's Executive Commission needs to allow a Council of EU Interior Ministers to decide the migration issues. Orban also said it was time to return to the ideal of a competitive European economy. Orban says we need jobs and to implement tax cuts everywhere. He also said Hungary would likely need 2 more stimulus measures to protect its economy. So I think that that's where it's really tricky. I'd love for Hungary to be its own country and to be strong like it used to be, Hungary and Poland. But when you become dependent, and they are dependent upon the EU, but it's a tricky situation because in being dependent, then asking for money versus, and it's just tricky because there needs to be a stimulus there, and I'm praying for them. I'm praying for them to get some God help there, right? Okay, so this was very interesting. In Cyprus, there were 12 Israelis Jewish people accused of raping someone.
Okay.
And it was a big deal because, oh my gosh, these Israelis did this thing.
Sure.
They're set free. She lied. And so it's become an international kind of spectacle here. And
so she tried to do kind of a Jussie Smollett.
I thought it was 12. It was 7. Sorry, forgive me. Exactly.
We keep seeing this because they don't have, and this is what the globalists and the left and the evil people do. When they don't have anybody on there, they don't have anybody actually doing the bad things that they keep touting. They make them up.
This is what we call a hate hoax. Yeah. Because they were Israelis. They're Jewish. It was 7. Forgive me. 7 Israeli tourists held in Cyprus are to be released after a British teenager who accused them of gang rape was arrested on suspicion of making a false allegation. I'm glad that she's arrested. We need to arrest everybody who makes false allegations.
Oh, absolutely.
And they need to go to jail. And I think that they need to go to jail for the same tenure and term that the other people would have gone for. Yeah. Because you can't do that to somebody's life. Because you're literally saying, I want you to go to jail for a certain amount of time. So you need to serve that sentence. We need to really put especially in America, like that, with Jussie Smollett, you need to go to jail. You cannot continue. We have Andy Ngo, who put together, he covers Antifa and stuff. He has hate hoax lists that boggle my mind. And all those people should be in jail. All of them. And those are not victimless crimes. You're trying to put people in jail. Exactly. You need to go to jail. All I can say now is that the 7 Israelis will be released from custody within the day, and that the British woman was arrested earlier today. She is facing charges of giving a false statement over an imaginary offense. I like how they called that. Initially, the 19-year-old woman had alleged that 12 Israelis gang raped her at the hotel where she was staying in the popular Ayat Napa resort on July 17th. The young Israeli tourists were remanded in custody the next week, but hours before their but hours before their second appearance before court, 5 of them were released and sent home. The remaining 7 had their remand order renewed for another 6 days. None have been charged. And the complainant
How do they find out
changed
when
her version
lies?
and based on that, the investigator released the other 7.
Wow.
So,
it's hard to keep your story straight when you've made it up.
It is very hard to keep it straight. I gotta go.
All right. We love you guys. God bless.
It's cold.